Fear and anxiety are two of the most powerful emotions we experience as human beings. They are ancient, primal responses, hardwired into our very existence for one purpose: survival. When our ancestors faced a predator in the wild, fear was the signal that triggered a rush of adrenaline, sharpening their senses and preparing them for action, fight or flight. In that ancient world, fear was a gift, it was a warning, it kept them alive. But in our modern lives, that same survival mechanism often misfires. It sounds the alarm, even when there is no real danger. Anxiety is fear's constant companion, a more subtle, creeping feeling that tells us something is wrong, even when nothing is. It's the whisper in the back of your mind that turns minor problems into mountains, a cloud that lingers even on a sunny day. And anxiety is a habit of the mind, a pattern of thought that can become so automatic you hardly even notice it. But its impact is undeniable. It saps your energy, steals your joy, and fills your life with doubt. We live in a world that feeds our anxiety. The constant barrage of notifications, news alerts, and social media highlights can make even the calmest person feel overwhelmed. We are more connected than ever before, yet so many of us feel alone with our fears. We worry about the future, replay past mistakes, and question our worth. Our minds become crowded with thoughts of what if and I can't. And soon, fear isn't just a momentary feeling, it becomes a state of being. But here's the truth. Fear and anxiety are not the enemy. They are simply signals, messengers from the mind and body trying to protect you. When fear grips you, it is simply your brain trying to keep you safe from pain, failure, or embarrassment. When anxiety lingers, it is your mind trying to prepare you for an uncertain future. The problem is not that you feel fear or anxiety. The problem is how you respond to them. Many of us try to fight fear, to deny it, to pretend it doesn't exist. We push it down, bury it beneath a smile, or drown it in distraction. But fear is not something you conquer by force. It is something you understand. It is something you face with courage. You cannot escape fear by running from it. You overcome it by seeing it for what it is, a feeling, not a fact. There is a critical difference between feeling fear and being controlled by it. Feeling fear is human, but letting fear decide your actions is a choice. Most people never learn this difference. They allow fear to shape their decisions, dictate their dreams, and limit their lives. They let anxiety become a cage, one where they remain trapped, imagining the worst-case scenarios instead of experiencing life. But here's the thing. Fear is a liar. It tells you that you are not strong enough, not smart enough, not good enough. It tells you to stay small, to stay silent, to stay safe. It convinces you that the worst will happen and that you are powerless to change it. Yet fear has no power of its own. It only has the power you give it. Anxiety is simply fear projected into the future. It is your mind trying to solve problems that have not even happened. It is the tension in your chest before a conversation, the racing thoughts before you fall asleep. But just because anxiety whispers in your ear doesn't mean you have to listen. Understanding this is the first step to breaking free. Our minds are wired to protect us, to anticipate danger and prepare us to survive it. But in the modern world, where threats are rarely life or death, this survival mechanism often misfires. Instead of warning you about real danger, your mind begins to warn you about imagined scenarios, a critical comment you might receive, a mistake you might make, a dream that might never come true. You begin to live in a world of what-ifs, a world where the worst-case scenario is always just around the corner. This is the true root of fear, not the situation you are facing, but the story you are telling yourself about it. You receive a text message with a short reply, and immediately you wonder if you have upset someone. You are asked to speak in a meeting, and suddenly you imagine forgetting your words, being judged, or embarrassing yourself. Your mind becomes a storyteller, crafting tales of failure, rejection, and disaster. And because these stories feel so real, your body reacts as if they are. But here's the thing. The mind is not always a reliable narrator. It exaggerates, it assumes, and it catastrophizes. It takes a single moment of uncertainty and turns it into a mountain of fear. The voice in your head begins to sound like the voice of truth, but it is only the voice of doubt. And the more you listen, the stronger it gets. It becomes a habit, a pattern of thinking that keeps you stuck, second-guessing, and playing small. This is why so many of us struggle with fear, because we have trained ourselves to believe our own worst thoughts. We have trained ourselves to see obstacles instead of opportunities, to see threats instead of possibilities. Fear thrives in the shadows of our imagination, growing stronger with every anxious thought we allow. And the more we overthink, the more we feed it. Overthinking is like staring at a problem through a magnifying glass. The longer you focus, the larger it seems. What was once a small concern becomes a looming crisis. A tiny mistake becomes a symbol of your unworthiness. A simple challenge becomes an impossible mountain. And in that distorted view, fear takes over. It convinces you that you cannot handle what is coming, that you are not strong enough, smart enough, or prepared enough. But fear is a liar, and its greatest weapon is your own mind. When you overthink, you allow fear to paint a picture of failure before you even begin. You give power to the shadows of doubt and worry, and you become trapped, not by your circumstances, but by your thoughts. The real battle is not against what might happen. It is against the stories you tell yourself about what could go wrong. And so fear is born not from the world around you, but from the world within you. It is the product of a mind that has forgotten its own strength, a mind that has become addicted to control, certainty, and perfection. But the truth is you will never find certainty in life. You will never control everything that happens, but you can control the stories you choose to believe. You can choose to see beyond the fear. Science shows that when you take action, your brain changes. Neurotransmitters like dopamine and endorphins are released, creating a sense of reward and reducing anxiety. Your focus moves away from the endless loop of fearful thoughts and towards the task at hand. The more you move, the less room there is for fear to take hold. Your brain cannot fully focus on fear and action at the same time. One must give way to the other. This is why even the smallest action can have a powerful impact. Making a phone call, sending an email, taking a deep breath, or even standing up can interrupt the spiral of fear. Your body sends signals to your brain that you are doing something, and this triggers a shift in your mental state. Suddenly, you are not just thinking. You are engaging with the world, and that engagement pulls you out of the shadows of doubt. This action also gives you evidence. When fear tells you, you can't do this, action proves otherwise. You build a track record of small wins, each one a reminder that fear's warnings are often false. You begin to see that most of your fears never come true, and even when things don't go perfectly, you discover that you are capable of handling it. This experience becomes the foundation of confidence, one that fear cannot easily shake. But there is something even more powerful happening beneath the surface. When you take action despite fear, you teach your brain a new lesson, that discomfort is not a danger, that fear is not a barrier. This is called neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience. Every time you choose action over avoidance, you strengthen the neural pathways of courage and weaken the pathways of fear. You are literally training your mind to be braver. And this doesn't just apply to big, life-changing decisions. It applies to the smallest moments. Choosing to speak up in a meeting, going for a walk when you feel overwhelmed, making a decision without overthinking. Each of these actions builds your resilience. Each one is a vote for the person you want to become, someone who feels fear but doesn't let it decide. But the most beautiful thing about action is that it is always within your control. You cannot always control how you feel, but you can always choose what you do next. Even in the midst of anxiety, you can choose to take one small step. And that step is the beginning of a new story, a story where fear is not the main character. Reformation is a superpower because it creates momentum. Once you take one step, the next becomes easier. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build. one action at a time. And as you move forward, fear begins to lose its grip. Because fear hates movement. It thrives in hesitation, but it dies in the face of courage. When you feel the grip of anxiety, your mind tends to spiral into a flood of negative thoughts. You start thinking about everything that could go wrong, every way you could fail, and every reason why you should avoid taking action. The 5-second rule interrupts this spiral. By counting down, you force your mind to switch gears, focusing on the numbers instead of the fear. It may seem like a tiny shift, but it is a powerful one. You are no longer a prisoner of your thoughts. You become the commander of your actions. But why 5 seconds? Because that is just enough time to make a decision, but not enough time for fear to talk you out of it. Our brains are wired to avoid discomfort, and fear is a master of creating that discomfort. But when you count down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you cut off fear's ability to hijack your decision. You create a mental launch pad, a clear moment where you can choose courage over hesitation. This is not just a motivational trick. It is rooted in neuroscience. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, is activated when you count down. It shifts your focus away from the emotional center of the brain, where fear and anxiety live. By the time you reach 1, your mind is primed for action. You are no longer stuck in worry. You are ready to move. Beauty of the 5-second rule is that it works anywhere, anytime. Whether you are struggling to get out of bed in the morning, feeling anxious before a big presentation, or second-guessing yourself before making an important decision, you can use it. It is a tool you carry with you wherever you go, a tool that costs nothing, but can change everything. And it works because it is universal. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are trying to overcome. Fear and hesitation are a part of being human, but so is courage. The 5-second rule simply helps you access that courage faster. It gives you a moment of clarity, a moment to choose a different path. It transforms hesitation into action, self-doubt into confidence, and anxiety into momentum. But what makes this rule truly powerful is how it can compound over time. The first time you use it, it might feel like a small victory. Getting out of bed when you don't feel like it, speaking up when you are nervous, making a call you have been avoiding. But each time you use it, you strengthen a habit of courage. You teach yourself that you are someone who takes action, someone who doesn't let fear decide. It becomes a new way of living. And over time, this tiny habit can spark massive change. It can help you build confidence, develop discipline, and take risks you would have avoided. It can help you silence the voice of doubt in your head and replace it with a voice of determination. Because at the heart of the 5-second rule is a powerful truth. You don't have to feel ready to change your life. You just have to start. Shifting from fear to curiosity is not about pretending that fear doesn't exist. It is about choosing to focus on a different perspective. Where fear asks, what if everything goes wrong? Curiosity wonders, what could I learn from this? Where fear paralyzes you, curiosity invites you to explore. It is a mindset shift that transforms the unknown from a threat to an adventure. It doesn't remove the uncertainty, it simply changes your relationship with it. Think about a child exploring the world for the first time. They are surrounded by things they do not understand, but they are not afraid. They are fascinated. They touch, they taste, they ask questions. They are curious, not because they know everything will go perfectly, but because they want to know what will happen. Somewhere along the way, as we grow up, we lose that sense of curiosity and replace it with caution. We become afraid of making mistakes, of looking foolish, of failing. But that fear is learned, which means it can be unlearned. The key to shifting from fear to curiosity is in the questions you ask yourself. When fear says, I can't do this, you replace it with, I wonder what will happen if I try. When anxiety tells you this is too hard, you respond with, what could I learn from this experience? When doubt says, you're not good enough, you get curious and ask, what can I do to get better? These questions open your mind instead of closing it. They give you a sense of freedom, a sense of choice. And there is a science to this. Studies show that curiosity triggers the release of dopamine, the feel-good chemical in your brain. When you are curious, you are not just mentally open, you are chemically rewarded. This makes you more resilient, more creative, and more willing to take risks. Fear shrinks your world, but curiosity expands it. It leads you to new experiences, new skills, and new insights. It makes life an adventure rather than a test. But you don't have to wait until fear disappears to become curious. In fact, the best time to practice curiosity is when fear is strongest. When you feel anxious about a new opportunity, instead of asking, "What if I fail?" try asking, "What could I learn if I take this chance?" When you are nervous about meeting new people, replace "What if they don't like me?" with "What interesting stories could they share?" Curiosity doesn't just replace fear, it rewrites the script of your mind. This mindset shift also changes how you see mistakes. In a mindset of fear, mistakes are proof of failure. But in a mindset of curiosity, mistakes are simply data. They are part of the learning process. Instead of being something to avoid, they become something to explore. You begin to ask, "Why didn't that work?" or "What can I do differently next time?" And with each mistake, you grow. With each risk, you become more confident. Because at the heart of curiosity is one simple truth: life is an experiment. Every decision you make, every chance you take, is an opportunity to discover something new about the world, about other people, and most importantly, about yourself. You do not have to know exactly what will happen next. You just have to stay open, stay curious, and keep moving forward. Fear will always exist, but curiosity gives you a reason to keep going anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. And self-compassion is what gives you the strength to make that choice. When you are kind to yourself, you give yourself permission to be human. You allow yourself to feel fear without shame. You understand that struggling does not make you weak. It makes you real. And this kindness is not just a soft, comforting feeling. It is a powerful act of courage. But too often we treat ourselves in ways we would never treat someone we love. If a friend came to you overwhelmed by fear and self-doubt, you would never call them weak or worthless. You would not tear them down. You would lift them up. You would remind them of their strengths, encourage them to keep going, and stand by them through their struggle. Self-compassion means giving yourself that same grace, that same support, especially when you are struggling. It is important to understand that fear is not a personal flaw. It is a universal experience. Every person you admire, every leader, every hero has felt fear. They have questioned themselves, faced doubt, and struggled just like you. The difference is not that they never felt fear. It is that they learned to face it. They learned to be kind to themselves in the midst of it. It's because self-compassion is not about avoiding challenges. It is about supporting yourself as you face them. When you practice self-compassion, you build resilience. Instead of tearing yourself down when things go wrong, you learn to speak to yourself with understanding. You remind yourself that setbacks are part of the journey, that mistakes are part of learning, and that growth comes from trying, not from being perfect. This mindset doesn't make fear disappear, but it makes you stronger in the face of it. It gives you the courage to keep going. And there is a powerful science behind this. Studies have shown that self-compassion reduces anxiety, increases motivation, and improves emotional resilience. When you are kind to yourself, you are less likely to give up. You become more willing to take risks because you know that even if you fail, you will not punish yourself. You will learn, you will grow, and you will try again. Self-compassion is not a weakness. It is your greatest strength. But self-compassion is not something that happens automatically. It is a skill, a choice you make in the moments when you need it most. When fear whispers that you are not good enough, you can choose to respond with kindness. You can choose to say, "It's okay to feel this way. I am doing my best." When anxiety tells you that you are alone, you can remind yourself that fear is something we all share, that just like you, everyone around you is trying, struggling, and learning. And perhaps the most powerful thing about self-compassion is that it does not just change how you feel about yourself, It changes how you show up in the world. When you are kind to yourself, you become braver. You take more chances, speak more openly, and connect more deeply with others. Because when you stop fighting against yourself, you free up your energy for something greater, for living, for loving, for becoming the person you were meant to be. To use the 5-4-3-2-1 method, start by taking a slow, deep breath. Then look around you and name 5 things you can see: the color of the walls, the texture of your clothing, the light from a window. Next, focus on 4 things you can touch: the feel of your chair, the texture of your desk, the warmth of your own hands. Then shift your attention to 3 things you can hear: the hum of the air conditioner, the distant sound of traffic, your own steady breathing. Next, identify 2 things you can smell: maybe your coffee or a hint of fresh air. Finally, notice 1 thing you can taste, even if it's just the taste of your own breath. This technique works because it interrupts the racing thoughts of anxiety and forces your mind to focus on your senses. It reconnects you with your body and your environment, giving you something solid to hold on to in a moment of overwhelm. The best part? It can be done anywhere, in a crowded room, at your desk, or even lying in bed at night. Each time you use it, you are training your mind to come back to the present, instead of getting lost in fear. The second technique is something I call box breathing, a method used by everyone from therapists to Navy SEALs to maintain calm under pressure. It is simple, but its effects are profound. To practice box breathing, you will focus on your breath in 4 equal parts. First, inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4. Feel your lungs expand as you fill them with air. Next, hold that breath for a count of 4, feeling the calm in the stillness. Then, slowly exhale through your mouth for another count of 4, letting go of any tension. Finally, hold your breath again for a count of 4 before starting the cycle over. The reason box breathing is so effective is that it activates your body's parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that calms you down. When you breathe deeply and evenly, you send a signal to your brain that it is safe to relax. This technique not only helps in the moment of anxiety, but also trains your body to respond more calmly to stress in the future. With regular practice, you can use it to quickly bring yourself back to a state of calm, no matter the situation. Both of these techniques, the 5-4-3-2-1 method and box breathing, are simple enough to remember, but their impact can be profound. They are tools you can use whenever anxiety begins to rise, and they work because they interrupt the mental and physical cycle of anxiety. Instead of spiraling into worry, you are taking direct control of your focus and your body. It is like pressing a reset button in your mind. But just knowing these techniques is not enough. You must practice them. The more you use them, the more automatic they become. You may start by using them only when anxiety is strong, but over time you can use them as part of your daily routine, creating a habit of calm and focus. They are not just emergency tools, they are ways to build resilience. And what makes them truly powerful is that they remind you of something essential, that you have the power to take control, even in the face of anxiety. Your mind may race, but you can slow it down. Your heart may pound, but you can steady it. These are not just tricks, they are proof that no matter how intense anxiety feels, you are always stronger. Every thought you entertain, every action you take is a choice. When you choose to focus on what you can control instead of what you cannot, you are exercising your power. When you choose to take one small step instead of being paralyzed by perfection, you are proving that fear does not own you. And when you choose to be kind to yourself, instead of tearing yourself down, you are building resilience. This is not just motivation, it is a fact. It is how your brain works, how your habits are formed, and how your life is shaped. But I want you to understand something important. You do not need to be fearless to take control of your life. Fear is a part of being human. It will always show up. But courage is not about the absence of fear. It is about your response to it. It is about feeling the fear and choosing to act anyway. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you are rewriting the story of who you are. You are proving to yourself that you are capable, even when you are uncertain. This is not just a mindset, it is a practice. It is the practice of using the 5-second rule to interrupt doubt and take action. It is the practice of grounding yourself with the 5-4-3-2-1 method when anxiety rises. It is the practice of speaking to yourself with kindness, of asking yourself, what can I learn from this, instead of what if I fail? With each of these choices, you are training your mind. You are building mental strength, just as surely as lifting weights builds physical strength. And the most incredible thing is that this power is always within you. No one else can take it away. No challenge can erase it. No mistake can destroy it. Because no matter what happens around you, you will always have the power to choose how you respond. You will always have the ability to take one more step, to try one more time, to stand up one more time. And in those choices, you create your life. But do not wait for confidence to appear before you take action. Confidence is not a gift you are given. It is a skill you build. And it is built through courage, through small, consistent choices that say, I will not let fear decide for me. You are not powerless. You are not a prisoner of your emotions. You are the author of your story. And every time you choose action over avoidance, courage over fear, you are writing a story of strength. Remember, you do not have to be perfect. You do not have to get everything right. You do not have to be fearless. You only have to be willing. Willing to try, willing to take a step, willing to show up even when it's uncomfortable. Because that willingness is where transformation begins. That willingness is where you discover your true strength. So the next time fear whispers in your ear, the next time anxiety rises in your chest, I want you to remember this. You are not your fear. You are the person who chooses to rise above it. You are the person who takes action even when doubt is loud. You are the person who gets back up, who keeps going, who chooses courage over and over again, because that is who you truly are.